Apple Card is the credit card created by Apple. You earn 3% daily cash back up front when you use it to buy a new iPhone 15, AirPods, or any products at Apple. And you can automatically grow your daily cash at 4.15% annual percentage yield when you open a high-yield savings account. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app on iPhone. Apple Card subject to credit approval. Savings is available to Apple Card owners subject to eligibility. Savings accounts by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, member FDIC. Terms apply.
Hi, I'm Martin Morell, and I host the Time for Heroes podcast.
Hey, I'm Mike. Welcome to Podcast Diaries. These are the stories of podcasters who feel alone, just like you. Hey, Martin. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Brilliant. Nice to see you.
So, Martin, you're located in...
I'm in Glasgow, just outside Glasgow in Scotland.
Fantastic. How's it going there? Is it how's the weather and all that?
Oh, it's horrible. Rain.
Lots of rain.
Rain, grey days.
Yeah. Do you guys experience a lot of gray days? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
About 70% of our weather is grey days.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I guess you get used to it. We are located halfway between Austin and Dallas in Texas. And so, I thank you very much for taking the time today to come in and just kind of talk.
Not a problem.
So, Martin, tell me about your show. Is this your first show, second show?
So this is my second show.
Okay.
My first show, as we spoke about off mic, lasted 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Which you just informed me is kind of the norm.
It is kind of the norm.
So, the first show I started during lockdown, COVID.
Uh-huh.
And I've always been fascinated with podcasts. And I thought I'll try and do my own one.
Mm-hmm.
So the first podcast that I listened to was the Oasis podcast, obviously a band for Britain, if you're not aware.
Yeah.
So one of the bands that I liked was a band from Dundee called The View. So I started a podcast based around them.
Okay.
And I interviewed people surrounding them, band members, other bands that had toured with them, guitar techs, anybody that was involved with the band I interviewed. And it was a pretty easy process, but I got to the point where I was thinking it's pretty limited in who I could interview.
Sure.
There was only scope for this certain group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I decided to start my new podcast, Time for Heroes. And it's basically the same sort of thing. I interview people, mainly musicians, some poets, writers, and whatever, but it is mainly musicians. And it gives me more scope. I can go anywhere with it. I'm not limited to that band.
Sure.
So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
Okay. And how far are you into that process with that show?
So I've been doing that from March 2021, and I've did about 35 episodes.
Oh, wow. Great. Well above that eight show mark, right?
Yeah.
That's good.
I've not got like a time limit. I wouldn't put one out every, like, I wouldn't do it every 2 weeks or it's just if I've got an episode, I'll put it out.
Sure.
And just in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I've been speaking to a music company, like a PR company, and I'm taking my podcast to them, and they're going to help me distribute it, and they're going to get me better guests.
Oh, that's great.
So we're going to be working together.
Yeah.
So that's going to be happening in 2023. So
how did that come about? Did they reach out to you? You reach out to them?
funnily enough, I was looking for guests, and I'd seen the woman that owns it, Sally Newman, her name is, and I'd thought about getting her on to my podcast as a guest, just because of the sort of stuff she does within the music scene. And upon looking at her website, I realised she was looking for people to join her team. And I thought, why don't I contact her? And just looking at the people that she was dealing with, I thought, she's going to get me the contacts I need. She's going to get me the guests I need to progress the podcast, get me bigger guests and things like that. She's well connected in the music industry, so it seemed a no-brainer. And I just sent a wee message away to her, and she got back to me a week later, and asked me, firstly, if I would join the team, and if I could record a radio show for them that weekend, because they were a man down.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it probably came at the worst week in my life. In the last month, my sister had been struggling with cancer for 17 years, and she'd went into a hospice, and she died 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So when Sally contacted me and asked me to do the radio show, I says, look, any other time I would have done it. I says, but I'm going through a bit of a rough patch.
Yeah.
And she was very understanding.
Right.
And she says, no, not a problem. And we're going ahead in 2023. So I'm ever grateful to her for giving me this opportunity. I think it could be the break that I need.
Yeah.
If I could quit my job and do something within the music industry and podcasting,
sure,
that would be the dream.
So what do you do daily?
I'm a postman.
Oh, really? Okay.
I work for Royal Mail.
Okay.
So we're not going through the best of times just now. We've been on strike for the last 6 months.
Wow.
Things are going down the pan really quickly. So
I think mail here is in trouble as well. I think it's a global thing. Mail has, I don't know. I mean, I get my packages and stuff, but like my Amazon things and stuff like that. But the vast majority of the mail that I get is just junk, And I don't know who's still using it for very, very important documents and things like that. So how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So before I done that, I left school and I went to college and done 2 years media studies.
Oh, okay.
With the intention of being a football commentator. That's what I wanted to do.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Soccer, you call it over there. So that's what I wanted to do. And about a year and a half in, I had to go for an operation. I dropped out, and then ended up in full-time employment. And 20 years down the line, before I bothered to start a podcast and actually use any of the skills that I'd learned at college. So I kind of feel as if I need to do something with those skills that I learned.
Yeah. So if you were to, I think you've probably touched on this a little bit, but what's the actual motivation to do this show? What keeps you doing
it? Probably just speaking to my guests, because obviously the podcast is called Time for Heroes, and what I do at the end of the podcast, I interview my guest, talk about their career, and then at the end, I ask them to pick 4 heroes, dead or alive, to come for a dinner party, why they've chose them, and what those heroes mean to them. Yeah. So it's basically what I'm doing is the same thing. I'm speaking to my heroes, I'm speaking to people that I want to speak to for a reason, because I hold them in some sort of admiration.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the motivation, is to speak to people that I want to hear a story,
Sure.
basically. And a lot of them as well, their story might not be known to other people. So if I can put it out to them, then it's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as far as the podcast, and again, I think you said if you could quit your job and do this full time, that's kind of your goal. But what do you see as success? What does success mean to your podcast, to you? What is that thing you could reach where you go, okay, this is a success?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've got no adverts. It's not been monetized in any way.
Sure.
I'm not overly obsessed with the figures. I don't look to see how much listeners I've got.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll change, obviously, with working with Sally at the Songbird.
Right.
But I don't know. I would see success. Just I think the success is that there's a podcast there. That's a success for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be it. Just knowing that I put something out. If no one listens to it in 30, 40 years, my two sons will be able to listen to it. They'll have the recordings.
There you go.
If I'm not here, they'll be able to hear my voice somewhere.
You know, I think about that occasionally. I mean, I put out a lot of stuff. As a network, we put out, 40-ish shows a week, 40-ish different episodes of shows a week. And I have a few of those, and I think, well, even if we don't reach, the pinnacle with these shows, I'm recording my voice, I'm recording my image. I don't think that's something that past generations would have had for themselves. They had the VCRs and they had the cameras and things like that, but not this sort of sometimes bare your soul type conversation. My kids could look back at this later and say, oh, that's the person I knew, not necessarily the guy forcing a smile in front of the Christmas tree. That's the guy I knew, the conversation. So I think that is, and you're the first one to mention that out of 20 something interviews I've done for the show.
Right.
I think it is kind of a time capsule we're creating here for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you just a couple more questions, then I'll get you out of here. I know you get stuff to do. The equipment and your setup, what's your equipment and your setup look like?
Basically, it's a laptop and a mic,
okay,
a USB mic. That's it.
Sure.
What is it? A Yeti microphone.
Sure.
And a Dell laptop.
Okay.
And that's it.
Do you? Where do you host?
Well, I'm sitting in my front room at the moment. I'm sitting in my living room.
I got you. But like, where do you upload the files to?
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
I use Acast.
Okay.
For my.
Okay.
I use them. I'm trying to think. I used someone before that, and now I'm with Acast, and then Acast pings it out everywhere. So
right.
It goes to.
Is that that's worked pretty well for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been fine. I mean, so I moved to Acast maybe about 15 episodes in, and I thought I would maybe have issues with the previous episodes, but it all got moved along, no problem, and all the episodes are still where they should be, and you can find them all.
Right. That's great. That's great. That's the way it should be, right? It should be fairly seamless for that. Do you do any editing?
I do. I kind of anything that like as and ums. I do a lot of as and ums.
Sure.
So I try and get rid of them, but it's pretty much the interview is pretty much as is.
Okay.
Other than just little fiddly bits.
And what?
One time I had a problem with one of my guests on my first podcast. Just as I'd put it out, he messaged me and said, "I'm just a bit worried about this thing that I said. Could you take it out?"
Mm-hmm.
And I says, "Not a problem." And she tried to take it out and upload it again. It kept uploading the original file. So I'd end up just taking it away for like a week and then uploading it again, and it seemed to kind of sort it out. But I was really panicky about that because you don't want to put something out that somebody's not happy with.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
I always tell the people, my guests, I'm not in the business of stitching them up. I don't want to get a story that's going to get them in trouble because, obviously, as I said, these people are my heroes. These are people that I like, and I don't want them in trouble for anything. So
yeah, they're nice enough to put their time aside and come talk to you. You certainly don't want to do anything to mess with them. So what do you do? Software to edit? What software do you use?
What's it called again? Where is it? I've got it here. Audacity.
Oh, okay, great.
Use Audacity, the free version of Audacity. I don't pay for anything.
Yeah.
No, I don't pay for anything.
I don't blame you. Do it as streamlined and as cheap as you can, right?
Yeah. So I don't pay for Audacity. I don't pay for Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I record all my interviews on Zoom. So after 40 minutes, it cuts out, doesn't it?
Sure. Yeah.
So I just say to my guests, look, it's going to cut out in a couple of minutes. Just log back in.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. But I mean, this is obviously, if the podcast grows and if I get the help for this lady that I'm talking to, hopefully I'll be able to progress and I'll be able to get better editing software. Yeah. And the thing is, I've never had any complaints about the product.
Okay. That's good.
So
it's great.
So while it's going the way it is, I don't feel any great reason to change it.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. I love that that you're very content with the show you have now, and you're just looking to improve that show. I think it's great that you're talking to these folks that'll get you bigger and better guests and hopefully some help with the show and help grow it. If you had one tip for somebody who wants to start a podcast but is afraid to do it, what would that tip be?
Just don't be afraid. Dive in. If you don't give something a try, you'll never know. Right. And I think, I mean, I'm in love with podcasting. I think the minute you do it, the buzz that you get for it makes you go back every time. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. Like I'd said before we started, you and I never would have met if it weren't for this and me posting a stupid thing on Facebook or wherever it was that you saw it. It's an amazing thing that connects people from all over the planet. And I can't think of anything else that does this and allows people to have actual conversations about actual topics, not just fluff, not just TV news, things like that. This, I feel like, is where we come to kind of bare our souls and talk about things that we actually care about. And so, Martin, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Thank you, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
This is the first podcast that I've been a guest on.
Well, that's great. It's great. It was wonderful having you. Yeah. And I'm sure there's many, many more to come. Martin, can you do me a favor and one more time, full name and the name of your podcast and maybe where they can find you?
Martin Morell, Time for Heroes podcast. And probably the best place to find it is Spotify. It is other places, I'm sure, but Spotify is where I get the majority of my listens.
That's great. Well, Martin, thank you so much. And you and I will stay in touch.
Thanks very much.
Check out more Podcast Diaries and plenty of other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. If you have a story to tell, reach out to us. info@roguemedianetwork.com. This has been a Rogue Media Network production.